Hi, this is Brandy Ann Copy Marks. I believe this is part 5 of our drawing lessons, and today we're going to learn about painting poppies. First, select a photo or flower from the garden that you want to paint. It's really a good idea to get used to drawing from real life out there and not worry about what people are thinking that happen to be walked by. I encourage you to practice doing that. Okay. The flower I selected, well, this was my first choice. This is the photograph I took of that poppy. I decided to paint this poppy that recently bloomed in my yard. I didn't want just the poppy though, but wanted it to really stand out, or pop as they say. So I chose a white orchid also, which would set it off nicely. Usually I draw first on paper, then draw it onto the canvas. But when I'm doing lessons like this, I design a painting in my computer using Paint Shop Pro for creating a lesson such as this. Next, I decide how I want the painting to look when it's finished, more or less, because things always change as your creativity, your artistic senses take over. So I made a composite of photos of the two different flowers. I used a white orchid, as I said, although I first considered using a photo of small white flowers, such as these, but they were not right for the poppy. They just didn't go with that bold poppy. And the white orchid is kind of bold itself, while at the same time being pure and delicate too. It was just a good offset for that beautiful blood red. After choosing a flower to paint and images for your background, whether it's flowers or just, some people will just use a mishmash of colors that will complement, like for red, a pale blue, you might want to put some sky in, or nothing. Well, no, you usually want something there in the background. I shouldn't say nothing. You may decide not to use anything but the poppy, and that's okay, but you're still going to want to paint something into that background that will complement the flower or whatever you're painting and bring it out. And you'll learn to do that as time goes on, and we'll talk about that as we go along. Using the skills you've learned so far, draw an outline of the flower. Here's an outline of the poppy on a rectangular surface. However, I did that because, well, anyway, it doesn't matter why I did that. My actual painting is going to be on something that's not quite as long and rectangular. I've decided to use a small 6x8 because I want to do a small painting. Now you may decide that you want something else in the painting, so draw in your other flower or whatever else you're going to have there in the background, such as this here. Now both the poppy and the orchid are there on the canvas. I didn't care for this layout and really wanted the poppy to stand out more from the other flower. So I had to make some changes, and this is why it's good to draw on the paper first instead of on your canvas. You know, a small image, just so you get a sense of what you really want to do. This I felt was a more pleasing arrangement. I made the orchid a little bit smaller, so it looks like it's further back, because that poppy needed to be out big and bold towards the forefront, and I made it larger where parts of it are off the page. We always use imagination. Remember how we talked about that in the very first lesson? This is what we do with drawing. Imagination is so important. So imagine your painting in your mind's eye before you begin. Then sketch or draw the image on a piece of paper to get a handle on the layout. If you don't like the look of it, you know, set that paper to one side. Don't throw it away. Just set it off to one side as a learning experience. And, you know, grab another piece of paper and do some more drawing. You know, try different layouts, different arrangements. You can some artists, if they have the fresh flowers or fruit or whatever they're doing for still life, for example, they'll bring them in and they'll rearrange those items several times before they actually do their sketch. And when you're using live items like that, you may want to sketch directly onto the canvas once you have the arrangement set up the way you like it. That way, by doing it on the paper though, you can adjust or change the layout as you go along. Once you become more adept or expert in painting, you likely won't need or want to go through all these steps, but for now you're simply learning. There may come a day when you'll get an image in your mind of what you want to paint. You'll grab that canvas and you'll start sketching it in just briefly. Like if I'm going to do a painting of a mountain, I'll just put a little line where I don't want the top of the mountain to go beyond that. I'll put a line across the center, generally a little above the center, because you don't want your horizon directly in the center. It would look kind of funny in the actual painting later on. But slightly above, maybe a third of the way up, you know, where the base of the mountain is going to be, might be a third of the way up, and that establishes the base of the mountain, the horizon. And then you might want to briefly sketch in, for example, what I do is I might put a little lake in there, and then just briefly sketch some very light images of where I might put some trees. Okay, you're getting the idea. When you have your sketch or drawing on the paper, you can draw it on the canvas. Now you're ready to begin adding color. I paint a lot in acrylics, and when finished, use a sealer that gives the appearance of an oil painting. It also brightens the colors, and that's very useful, especially because I like to paint in bright colors, and I don't want that brightness, that glow lost when it dries. And that sealer that I use, that particular sealer that I use, really helps to bring the colors out. The image below is what I would like my painting to resemble. And as I said, you know, mine's going to not be quite as long and wide for a rectangle. Mine's going to be a little bit more squished. And so more of the orchid, a little bit of that one leaf is going to be off the page, and my poppy might butt right up to the edge of the page. What the painting actually looks like when finished is seldom what I first envisioned or imagined, because I use my artistic sense to alter things as I paint. If I don't like it exactly the way it is, I may change a petal, or just the brush will make a stroke that I hadn't anticipated. It just kind of happens sometimes, and you think, wow, I really like that. You get the idea. Imagination is everything. God gave each of us different skills and abilities, but He also allows us to learn differently. So not everyone's painting is going to look exactly like someone else's. God forbid, for then it would be just a copy and not your own original God-given design and ability for the work. And if you want to be a copyist, you still need to learn to paint and apply the stuff to the canvas. If you have a desire to draw and paint, chances are God gave that to you. And when you learn to use that talent, God will use you, and your life will blossom like the flowers with the sun shining down on them. Now that you've drawn your image on the canvas, next we will paint the painting using whatever you want to use, water or acrylic. I do not recommend oils yet because they're managed differently than watercolors and acrylic. I will be showing you how I did my painting in step-by-step images I'll take pictures of, using acrylics or maybe watercolor. I haven't decided yet, and that'll be in the next video. Okay, my name is Brandy Ann Coffee Marks. I live in Vancouver, Washington, and that's my phone number there. If you have any questions or would like personal lessons in art, God bless. You have a wonderful day.